Every day, every day when Sammy walks home from school with her mom, they take a path that leads them through a wooded area. Sammy always sees different things on her walk home, but she has noticed that she often sees certain metallic-looking beetles on her favorite tree. Click around the highlighted parts of Sammy's forest to see why this beetle is found on Sammy's tree and how other organisms rely on one another. When you're done, click Next to discover more about the relationships among living things and their non-living surroundings. Sammy discovers that some birds have preferences for certain trees, just like she does. This woodpecker likes to make its nest in trees like this one. What would happen to the woodpeckers if these trees were to disappear? As Sammy watches the woodpecker, she sees it pick up something from the tree bark. The woodpecker has captured a beetle that was living on the tree. Sammy is not sure if it is the kind of beetle she was curious about, but she thinks about how the bird might help the tree, just like the tree helps the bird. If the beetle was feeding off the tree, then the bird helps to protect the tree by eating the beetle. Sammy takes a picture of the beetle and looks on the internet for information about it. She finds out that this beetle lays its eggs in this kind of tree. Once the eggs hatch, the small beetles will use the tree as food. Sammy wonders what would happen to this tree if a lot of these beetles were to lay their eggs here. Too many beetles could harm the health of the tree. Welcome to the lesson, How Do Plants and Animals Need One Another? In this lesson, you'll learn how important plants and animals are to one another. You'll also find out how both plants and animals depend on non-living things to survive. The vocabulary words for this lesson are environment, food chain, and pollen. Click each word to find out more about it. You probably know that insects eat plants. Do you know that some plants eat insects too? When a fly lands on this Venus flytrap and touches the small hairs on the plant's leaves snap shut. Without insects to eat, the Venus flytrap would not survive. Your environment is all the living and non-living things around you. Ducks, fish, and frogs might be part of the living environment. Non-living parts of the environment include air and water. Animals need water to drink and air to breathe. You eat plants such as fruits and vegetables to stay healthy. Let's look at some other ways that animals rely on plants for survival. Click each image to learn more. Pandas eat mostly bamboo plants. Some animals eat only plants and could not survive without them. Plants give off oxygen into the air. We need this oxygen to breathe. Some animals use plants for shelter. Birds sometimes use pieces of grass and leaves to make their nests. People might use wood, which comes from trees, for building their homes. Some plants are used for medicine. An aloe vera plant can soothe sunburned skin. You've learned that animals and plants need living and non-living things in their environment. Which of these pictures do you think shows a non-living thing that a deer needs to survive? Click your response.
What do you think?
Not quite. Deer do eat grass, but grass is a living thing. Try again. That's not quite right. Berries come from a plant, which is a living thing. Try again. That's correct. Water is a non-living part of the deer's environment. A deer needs water to survive, just like you do. You can probably think of many ways you've used plants. But can you think of how plants have relied on you? Plants also need animals for their survival. Click each image to learn more. Hummingbirds help plants by spreading pollen. Pollen gets all over a hummingbird's bill as it drinks sweet nectar from a flower. When the hummingbird moves from flower to flower, pollen spreads from flower to flower too. Then the flowers can make seeds that will grow into new plants. Animals help spread plant seeds to new locations. Some seeds have little hooks on them so they stick to an animal's fur or even to your socks. Once these seeds fall off, they can grow into a plant. Earthworms add nutrients to the soil, and that helps plants grow. Plants use the air that people and other animals breathe out to make their own food. A food chain shows how energy moves from plants to animals. A food chain shows one way that animals use other animals and plants. Click the highlighted areas to find out more about a basic food chain. What if you were able to make your food out of the sun's energy and the air? Plants do it all the time. That's why plants play such an important part in the environment. Sunlight and plants form the base of food chains. Some animals, such as rabbits, use plants for food. Other animals, such as this hawk, eat smaller animals, such as rabbits. Animals and plants use one another in various ways. Can you find an example that shows how plants depend on animals? Click your response.
Okay, I'm going to stop the video and start a new one.
Not quite. This is an example of an animal using a plant. But try again. That's not quite right. Rain is a non-living thing that plants need to grow. Try again. That's not it. The deer are using a non-living thing, the water, to drink. You can try again. You got it. Bees, like hummingbirds, help plants by spreading pollen from flower to flower. You've learned that food chains show how energy moves from plants to animals. You've learned that food chains show how energy moves from plants to animals. See if you can match the animal or a plant with the living thing that eats it. Drag each image to its match. Good job! You matched the animal and plant with the organisms that eat them. The caterpillar gets energy by eating leaves. The owl gets energy by eating a snake. We rely on living and non-living things in our environment. We rely on living and non-living things in our environment. Can you sort these objects according to whether they are living or non-living? Drag the images to their correct boxes.
Cow. Soil. Rock. Plants. Trees. Water.
You did it! You correctly sorted these objects we rely on in our environment as either living or non-living. Great job! You've learned a lot about how important plants and animals are to one another. Let's take a quick look at the main points from the lesson. Your environment includes living and non-living things around you. Non-living things you rely on in your environment are water, air, space, and soil. Plants and animals use one another for survival. Plants use animals to help them grow, make seeds, and move seeds to new places. Animals use plants for shelter and food. A food chain follows the path of energy in an environment. Food chains describe one type of relationship that animals have with other animals and plants. Now that you have finished this lesson, if you wish, you can go back and review any part of the lesson again.